Hey everybody, in this video, we're gonna start talking about how you can get better. You've made the investment in your technology. How do you actually see some improvement with it? Hey everybody, Scott Hogan coming at you. Thank you so much. We're here in my learning studio. I'm excited that I'm able to be back here and help you with your golf games. So this is something I've been wanting to do. Is I get a lot of questions, a lot of emails about certain things that I do in my swing, and when I post my rounds, I actually get a lot of people that comment like, "Oh, you do this," or "Why do you do this?" and isn't that not what you're supposed to do? So what that got me starting to think about was, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm, admittedly, I've read pretty much everything. I attend seminars, several seminars a year. We go to the PGA show, it's just nonstop learning. I'm trying to learn as much as possible, and we have all this tech here that we try to learn from. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, where is all this going? What's the truth? What's this non-truth? What's the stuff that's just kind of that flash in the pan, at marketing genius secret, and what isn't? So that's what we're always working on, and that's what I try to figure out for my students, and I want to share it with you. So before we do that, this is going to be a series. We're going to run through in depth the golf swing. All right, so we're going to spend a lot on pretty much every topic. So today we're going to work on the grip, and you're going to spend all our time talking about the grip and get you thinking about what your grip is. So you don't want to miss the rest of it. Today's the big foundation, but you don't want to miss the rest of the video. So make sure you click that subscribe button before we get over to it. So let's start jumping into that grip, okay? And we're going to talk about it in a way, again, I'm going to show you the absolute musts that you have to have with the grip, but then I want you to start thinking about what your grip is. What I usually see when people come and take lessons is they'll say, okay, hey, I'm slicing it. And then I'll say, okay, what have you tried to do in the past? Like, oh, well, I tried, like strengthening my grip. And what happens is that grip, it could not be stronger. It's so strong, but they still slice the ball. And again, it's just, all right, let's start talking about some of the relationships that you're creating when you do certain things with that grip. You're just promoting that certain things happen. And if you're strengthening the grip, that's always been something, hey, you want to draw it, strengthen the grip. But when you start thinking about it, does it actually promote that you're going to draw a golf ball? I don't know. And a lot of the people you see with strong grips, they don't actually hit draws. So we want to go through all that. We'll give you the basics, the absolute must-haves. There's not many of them in the grip, but there are certainly things you have to do. And then we want to talk about a little bit of the theory and let you kind of figure out what grip works best for you based on how your body works and also what type of shot you want to hit. So let's get to it. All right, so let's start going over the grip here, okay? So we get into it again, we just talked about it. Getting this grip right really has a huge impact on your game. So we're gonna build a grip in a couple of pieces here. Doesn't take that long to build a grip, but let's start talking about what grip should be right for you and how would you determine that based on the shot pattern you wanna hit. So first things first, the basics of a grip. What does everybody have to do and get if you're gonna have a good grip? So the first thing is, you can see on my glove here, I love this glove from Caddy Daddy. It has these lines, so I practice with this because it has these lines that run across my hand, and that's gonna remind me as I'm gripping a golf club that that's actually how we want the grip to go. We need the grip to go across our fingers. So what I look at is try to get it on my lead hand. So this is my left hand for the right-handed player. I'm trying to get that grip to run right across the base of my fingers. If I do that, then what I can do is wrap my fingers around. You're gonna see that my three fingers, my pinky, my ring finger, my middle finger, those are kind of the ones that wrap around the farthest. This pointer finger comes around too, but there's not a lot of pressure on this part of the grip. And then what I'm gonna do is get my lead thumb to come on over. That's a huge part of this. You got to get that lead thumb over and get it on top of the grip. So as we're looking back at it, let's show it to you. There we go. You can see where he got the thumb on the grip. You can see my thumb is crossed over onto the other side of the grip. So my left thumb is on the right half of the grip. If you're a lefty, your right thumb is going to be on the left side of the grip. That's easily the most important part of the grip. If you can get that part down, then the part that everybody else worries about, is it strong, is it weak, that part isn't going to matter if you don't have this grip secured properly in that lead hand, okay? So getting this part, so what do I see most people do? I see most people run this thing across their hand. Why is that? Well, because when the golf club is in the playing position, you go to grip it, you know, your hand tends to kind of fit nicely where it runs right down along the grip, but the problem you're going to have is now that club is going to be in a position where when you start swinging it, it goes all over the place. You don't have control. So getting this thing gripped where you're running across your hand is important. So based on what I just said there, you don't want to grip it when it's in the playing position. You want to grip this thing up in the air. If you hold it, if you're struggling with the grip and this is awkward to you, grip it up here. Grip it while you're holding the club straight up and down. Go ahead and lay those fingers right across the grip. Now it's running right across my hand. Man, we're in good shape there. So that's going to give me a lot of control. I can start levering the club. I mean, I've got a ton of things I can do from there, and I can have the freedom of my hands and arms, which we're going to talk about in a further video, that you're going to need if you're going to ever play really, really high level of golf. All right, let's start talking about the next part then with the grip. As we start looking at it, it's strong versus weak. And so I just want to define this in this part. In another part of the video, we're going to talk more about, you know, what effect does that have on your golf ball? Because I think a lot of people, there's some simple ways that people think about it, but I don't think it's actually as simple as you think when you're looking at your swing. So let's start talking about strong versus weak. So again, I'm a righty, so I'm looking at my left hand. We're talking all about our lead hand. I've got this thing gripped. It's in my fingers. And then we start talking about, all right, what's a strong grip versus a weak grip? So a strong grip is going to be if I take this and turn my hand towards my right shoulder, okay? If I kind of let my arm go back to neutral, you're going to see that club face starts to close, and that's what we see makes a stronger grip. Conversely, if I take my grip, I get weaker where I turn it so my thumb is going more this direction, okay? If I go back to kind of where it normally wants to go, you're going to see the face opens up. So that's kind of a weaker grip that they call it. But it feels a little bit not as strong in your hand. When you're going strong, you feel like you got a lot of control of this thing. So that's where the weak and strong comes from. What should you have? I mean, it's really going to depend on where you're at in your body type. So if we look at my arm motion here, okay, I'm going to show you that here. As I go, when I just let my arm hang, you can see the top of my logo faces the camera, okay? It faces the camera. So that's kind of in this turned over position. My natural position, my neutral, is going to be more of what people would call a stronger grip, all right? That's just where my arm naturally hangs. So if I'm going to come back through and be square or have an easier time getting to square, that's where I want to be. Okay, I think a lot of people will ask, all right, how many knuckles should you see on your hands? You know, should you see 1, 2, 3, 4? It really depends on who you are. For me, what that looks like as I'm going through, I see 1, 2, I can see part of 3. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Where should you be? Probably somewhere in the 2 to 3 range. But again, test your arm out, see where you naturally hang, and then kind of go from there. Now, that's going to be your neutral. That doesn't mean exactly where you're going to stay, but it's going to get you a starting point. Again, we're going to start talking about shots you want to hit and let you decide what grip you should go with as you're going to work on your game. So that's your strong versus weak. Again, it's just your lead arm. How much is it turning? Again, getting that grip over, getting to where it's stronger. If you can get this club gripped up in the air correctly with it running across your fingers, it gets a lot easier to start turning the grip over and figuring out what is the most natural position for you as you go. Now we got to talk about the grip. We do have to talk about there's 2 hands on the grip, so we have to talk about that part. Let's say the right hand, if you do a really good job on your lead hand, your trail hand, that's fairly easy as you're going through. We're basically going to get our thumb on our trail hand to cover up the lead hand. That's what we're going for. And then what I like to see is I do like to see a grip where everything is as together as possible. Now, does that mean, hey, I have to go with an interlock or an overlap? Those are the two most popular. Interlock being where you lock those fingers together, overlap, place the fingers over the top. That's gonna be kind of up to you. You can go baseball grip, and you know what? I've got a player on my college team that goes cross-handed, and he's got everything working together as well. I mean, the grip is a very personal thing, and it kind of goes with what you're working on. And the last thing I mention always to people with the grip is, yeah, we're showing you how to build a grip, but when I talk with really good players, you know, you always hear them tinkering with it. It's not something I think that is as set in stone as people think. So again, the couple of things that we need to know, we got to be able to get it in the lead hand and get it across our fingers. That's it. And then getting to a point where, hey, I can get the grip where my trail hand's making it all work like it's together. As far as strong, weak, those things, knowing what we mean by those is important. But let's start talking some shots and show you how that can change based on whatever you're trying to do. All right, so let's start talking about shots that you hit. So the conventional wisdom with the grip has always been, if you make the grip stronger, so I'm turning it towards my right shoulder, so I'm turning it away from the target, the conventional wisdom is like, hey, you want to work on drawing the ball, let's say. Get that grip stronger. That's going to shut the face. You know, and that makes a little bit of sense. If you're working on a draw, that's going to get you to a point where the face is most likely going to be closed to the path that I'm swinging on. That's what creates a draw. But we start looking at people that have stronger grips. What is the shot that they typically play? It's actually fades, okay? When you look at a lot of really strong grip people, they're typically playing more fades. Not saying there aren't strong grips that play draws. It is definitely possible. But let's start thinking about what we're actually controlling. We don't want to be overly simplistic here because, again, you're simple on this most important part, which is controlling one of the most important parts of the whole swing, which is the club face. So if I strengthen this grip, okay, if I strengthen my grip, we talked about earlier, naturally the face is going to want to be a little bit more shut. Well, what does club face control? That controls majority of the starting line of the golf ball. So if I have my target line here and I've got the ball right there, if I get the grip stronger, what's going to happen is you're going to see that ball start left of the stick, okay? You're going to see that thing start left. And so what happens is if you actually did hit a draw, you are going to hit a pull draw. You're going to go left to left. Now, that's not the greatest way to go. It's a shot that's not very functional. We want functional shots. So what do we see is you have to look at it and say, all right, if I'm starting the ball left, what's the most functional shot that matches up with that grip type? Well, it's actually a fade. That's where you see like Dustin Johnson. You got your Brooks Koepkas of the world, they're faders. You got some of these guys that have super strong grips that are hitting big time fades, okay? And that's their go-to shot because what you see is, again, that ball's gonna start left, so what do they do to adjust? They just, instead of changing their grip, they just cut across it and hit that little fade. Because the grip is stronger, because the face wants to close, they just hold it off and let it work its way back towards the target line, okay? That's where they see, all right, hey, a strong grip has a different type of shot pattern than what, again, I think most people start thinking. Now, if you're somebody that's a big time slicer, you'll see people put super strong grips on them because they just want to see them hit something that goes left. That's a kind of a mental trick, but again, not a long-term solution to the issue. You actually need to train how you're going to move the club face with it. But again, we're just talking more about the grip as we go. So if I'm looking at grip, if I wanted to hit, like, let's say a push draw, what do we actually see? We actually see some of the weaker grips on tour. I see Jordan Spieth, right? Weaker grip. Those guys are the ones that are playing more of those push draws. They're playing more of those push draws because when you get the weaker grip, again, I'm just turning it a little more to the left, that face is going to want to come in a little bit more open. That ball now is going to start more to the right side of the target line. So for people that are trying to draw the ball, especially if they want to learn a push draw, the first thing I'm gonna look at is their grip and say, all right, hey, is that in a position where the ball's gonna start and push out? Again, I'm not gonna strengthen the grip, start it left, because then what happens there is you're gonna have to start with, if I get a strong grip and get this thing moving left, I'm gonna have to do some major shallowing the club, body positions, almost to a detriment to the rest of my game to be able to pull this off. So I think that's something that people want to start understanding. What's the grip doing? What's the shot you want to hit? So let's say you're somebody that wants to fade it. Me personally, I just kind of go with the fade. I know this from experience. I fought trying to draw the ball forever. I've got that strong grip. I've got a strong, again, it looks strong already, but then I go even a little stronger. I mean, that's how I was taught, and I faded the ball for my whole life, and it kind of went against the conventional wisdom of like, oh, you got a strong grip, it's supposed to be a draw. And I heard that forever, heard it forever, and I just mentally couldn't grasp why I couldn't do it. And then as I got better as a teacher and started learning ball flight, you're like, wait, that kind of makes sense. If you're gonna have that strong of a grip, functional shot's not a draw, it's a fade. I'm gonna start the ball left, let it go fade. So that's something that we work on, or that I try to work myself into, is everything has to match up, and my matchup with the grip just screams hit fades. Hit a powerful fade and go with it. So we work on that. I let the grip stay strong, I let the ball start left, and I let it work its way back, okay? Now, do I want to draw it sometimes? Of course, I want to be able to move the ball both ways. So how does my draw look with a stronger grip? Okay, my draw is going to look more like I'm going to aim right, okay? Strong grip. I'm going to start it, my target line is now over here a little bit, so I'm going to basically play the pull draw. I'm going to pull it, draw it. That's how a draw looks for me, okay? Now, conversely, let's say you have a weaker grip. Something that's kind of interesting to study with this is Tiger. He had a stronger grip. He's gone weaker. He wanted the more neutral grip. He went weaker. So, as somebody that can move the ball both ways, he's a great example of looking at kind of that weaker neutral grip. So you just start looking at, all right, if I've got this neutral or weaker grip, if I want to draw it, I definitely got to make sure the club path is working its way out. The beautiful part is when you have that little bit weaker grip, you don't have as much control, so you get up here and it's a little bit easier because you've got to flatten your wrist out to make that happen and get the club to shallow and really swing into out. Now, that helps you hit that draw. You can pretty much just aim straight ahead, work on hitting that push draw. What do you want to do if you want to hit a fade? Because you don't want to hit one that starts right and then continues going right. Well, this is something that you see, again, Tiger talks about it all the time, but they're going to hit what's called a push fade, a going push fade. So you're going to see them kind of aim way left, make that same swing, same into out swing with their golf swing, but because they've aimed so far left and they've got the club face still pointed kind of on their original target line, the relationship is ball's going to start right, go right. So again, you're working around these grips and starting to understand the impact your grip has on the club face, which then, as we go through, how does that play into the rest of your golf swing? I think it's huge. It's one of those things that you can think about this for a while and get better at golf, because theoretically you're going to have a better understanding of what the ball's doing. Again, don't take stuff at face value. We're in an industry that so much will say, all right, you're slicing it, strengthen your grip, boom, there you go. It might work, but I guarantee you from a strong grip, you can still slice the ball. That's for sure. But it's just not that easy. We love to give the easy tip, but you got to think about it. If you take the time on these basics, you're really going to have some easy things going on as far as, hey, this is what I want to see. And you'll see guys that when they're trying to hit shots, if somebody has a stronger grip and they are trying to hit a fade, or sorry, they're trying to hit maybe like a push fade one time, you might see them weaken it up, or they might draw it and weaken up their grip. They don't keep it all the time there, even though it's pretty close to what they always are playing. So don't be afraid to mess around with that. Don't keep your grip locked in at one point. Experiment with it. See if that grip starts filtering into the rest of your swing. I think that's really important to get you to do that and start building a swing that's not going to make you thinking about too many other things down the road. You're just thinking about that grip and what you want to do with it. All right, so I wanted to give one little short game pointer that we can use with the grip. So that 20, 30, 40, 50-yard pitch, somewhere in there, not the full swing, and not really the bump and run either. If you're doing like a bump and run, you could always just switch to a putter grip and go for that. And that's a whole different story, the putter grip. But you can switch over to that and just hit bump and runs. But if you're talking about those shots, which I think are so critical to shooting good scores, is that 20 to 50-yard pitch shot. You know, when you're in trouble off a tee, you have to play out of trouble, get the ball in the green, and save a bogey or maybe save par. That's really critical, and this grip thing really starts to lie in where pros get so good. So when you hear pros talk about those shots, that kind of mid-flight shot, you see it spin a touch. What do they do? And this is especially true off tight lies. What do they do? The one thing that you'll see is they treat it very much like a full swing in terms of like the plane and all that stuff. They're really just kind of doing everything the same, but they make one major change, and that comes into the grip. What they do is they weaken their grip. Okay, ask any player that's really good at these shots. I learned from a couple of mini tour guys I've never seen people spin the ball so much from like 10 yards, 15 yards. It was crazy. What did I learn? They all weaken their grip. So they're turning it towards their front shoulder. And what that does is when they get to kind of their normal setup, it turns the face open. What happens when you turn the face open? You have more bounce engaged, and it's easier to maintain that throughout the hit. So what I'm able to do then is make my kind of normal swing. Let's get that weaker grip. My normal swing. And I can brush some turf. That ball's gonna come out nice and high. It's gonna have really good contact, which puts a ton of spin on it, but then it's not gonna have a ton of ball speed, so it can really put the brakes on it. So again, that's just a little tour tip. What do really good players do to make those really soft shots that have so much spin? They obviously hit them really well, just really consistently, but they take that grip, they weaken it up a little bit, it keeps the bounce engaged. Try that, especially if you're somebody that struggles with making good contact. I think it'll really help you. All right, there's the grip. So that might have been the most time you've ever thought about a grip, if you watched all the way through. If you made it to here, congratulations, you're dedicated, I love it. I think that's something that you'll see is, when I spent my time in Arizona and you're around really, really good players all the time. I mean, you got mini tour guys all over the place. You got professional players. You got all that stuff. You got people that are playing at the highest level are out there, and you start talking with them about their games. I mean, what are you working on? Well, I'm just trying to work on my grip a little bit. I mean, it's like, it was crazy. I'm like, well, what? And you start thinking about it like, okay, why would they want to work on their grip? Why aren't they working on this specific move or this move? Well, they know that the foundation of what they're going to be doing comes from the grip. You have to have matchups throughout your entire swing. You have to have everything matched up. If you have everything matched up, you have a really good chance to get pretty good at this game. So if you have it all matched up, you're going to be in good shape. And the first one that has to match up right off the bat to what you're trying to do is the grip. And it's not as easy as, all right, I'm going to just strengthen it, and all of a sudden I'm going to be able to draw the ball, or I'm going to weaken it, and I'm going to all of a sudden be able to hit a fade. Because we see that matchup not be true many, many times, especially with really good players, where it's actually the opposite of what the traditional thought was. So hopefully we start getting you thinking about things. This is our introduction to going through the swing. I'd be remiss if we didn't start talking about the grip to start, because that has such a trickle-down effect through everything else. But we're going to start building your swing so it will get moving in our next videos, so don't miss those. Click that subscribe button down below, and I can't wait to help you get better. My goal with this is that we start hearing, we do our indoor golf leagues and stuff. I want to hear people shooting better scores, having more fun, and hey, even take this outside and go play and shoot lower scores out there. That's my whole goal with it, and hopefully that works out for you. Thanks everybody for watching. Again, if you made it to this far, man, you are a grip master. Love it. Going to be better already. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next video. Peace, everybody.